This is a shadowy world, where the sun and moon are dimmed, emitting a faint gray light that blankets the endless heavens and earth. Buzz. Suddenly, an unusual disturbance ripples through the air. A massive spatial vortex takes shape, causing powerful beings in this world to take notice. Eyes from all directions pierce through the space, all focused on the vortex's end, where it seemed to connect to a lower dimension. Someone activated the demon summoning talisman. Judging by the disturbance, it must be the Blood Fiend clan. I never expected a demon emperor to appear in such a small clan. They're really good at hiding. Still, it's a small clan with shallow roots. Otherwise, why would they be forced to use the demon summoning talisman? Now, with others looking on, it seems the lower dimension is probably lost to them. This talisman can only summon one demon emperor. It depends on who is interested. A series of demonic thoughts exchanged between the realms, but none of the demon emperors made a move for now. After all, the lower dimension had been completely drained by the Blood Fiend clan, so it wasn't particularly valuable. Given that the situation was unclear, entering recklessly would be unwise. While some demon emperors were still considering their actions, in the space filled with the stench of death, a towering bone throne loomed, and a massive shadow with pitch-black eyes sat with his eyes shut. At this moment, it seemed he had sensed something, suddenly opening his eyes. His gaze pierced through the space, directly shattering the spatial passage, and bypassed the dimensional shackles, taking in everything from the lower dimension. Finally, his gaze stopped on a young figure. A bone-chilling coldness flashed in his grayish-white eyes. This person carries the deathly aura left by my child. It seems he is the one who killed my son. The giant shadow let out a cold grunt, then waved his sleeve. His dark hand detached from his body, transformed into a beam of black light, and shattered the void. In just a few breaths, it appeared before the spatial vortex and plunged into it. This scene didn't go unnoticed by the demon emperors watching. When they sensed who had made a move, they couldn't help but shudder. It's actually the Black Corpse, Heavenly Demon Emperor of the Corpse Demon Clan. Why is he making a move? The Corpse Demon Clan is one of the 32 major evil clans from beyond the realms, and the shadow that just acted as the clan's leader, having reached the level of Heavenly Demon Emperor. He is one of the strongest among the evil clans. Such beings rarely make a move, but now, unexpectedly, he had acted. How could it not shock and bewilder the other demon emperors observing? Though the Heavenly Demon Emperor only sent a part of himself, his hand, into the lower dimension, even that single hand possessed a power far beyond an ordinary Heavenly Supreme. It seems the Heavenly Supreme from that lower dimension must have offended that Lord. Kakik, truly pitiful. The demonic thoughts began to scatter. With a Heavenly Demon Emperor involved, the Heavenly Supreme from that great thousand world would have no hope of survival. In the lower dimension, Mu Chen gazed at the space passage that seemed to tear through the void and connect to another world. His expression hardened as his mind stirred. Vast spiritual energy transformed into a giant hand that covered the sky and blocked the sun. He slammed it down on the spatial vortex, attempting to shatter it. Boom! The earth trembled, but the spatial vortex merely shook and didn't collapse. At that moment, Mu Chen sensed an indescribable, evil aura surging from the end of the passage. The moment that aura appeared, it enveloped the entire world, sending countless living beings into a frenzy of fear and trembling. Even the heavens and earth groaned and quaked. This aura, Mu Chen's pupils constricted. He was no stranger to this deathly aura, having sensed it before on the prince of the Corpse Demon Clan. But this time, the death aura was far more powerful than that of the royal family. The Blood Demon Emperor also stared at the space passage in shock. After a brief pause, he muttered in disbelief. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor? While the demon summoning talisman could summon a demon emperor to their aid, the Blood Demon Emperor never expected such a being to be drawn here. After all, even within the evil clans from beyond the realms, the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor was a peak existence. Generally, beings of his level would never respond to such summons. Yet, no matter how shocked he was, the scene before him was undeniable. After the initial shock, the Blood Demon Emperor looked at Mu Chen with a gaze full of pity. He shook his head and sneered. "You really are the unluckiest person to ever exist." If only another demon emperor had come this time, Mu Chen might have been able to remain undefeated. But who could have expected that the one to arrive would be the heavenly demon emperor of the corpse demon clan? Mu Chen paid no attention to the mocking words, his expression serious as he gazed into the distance, where the aura of death was slowly seeping through. Clearly, the heavenly demon emperor of the corpse demon clan was breaking the dimensional shackles, attempting to descend into this lower dimension. This heavenly demon emperor evidently possessed unimaginable power. Even the incredibly sturdy dimensional shackles were breaking at an astonishing speed. Within just a few minutes, Mu Chen saw a streak of black light appear as if from beyond the world. Within the black light, he could vaguely make out a palm that looked as withered as a piece of ancient bone. The black palm radiated with dark light, gradually twisting, and eventually transformed into a shadowy figure. It stood like a demonic god beyond the dimension, its gaze seemingly piercing through all obstacles and locking onto Mu Chen. A cold, emotionless voice echoed from the heavens, resonating through every corner of the world. Was it you who killed my son? Mu Chen's eyes narrowed. He now understood why the heavenly demon emperor of the corpse demon clan had come. It was because he had killed the prince of the corpse demon clan earlier. Before his death, the prince had left a trace of his aura on Mu Chen. Normally, this would not have been detectable to the heavenly demon emperor while he was in the Great Thousand Worlds. But when the blood demon emperor connected with the extraterritorial evil clan's region, the heavenly demon emperor felt it and became aware of the lingering aura. Mu Chen narrowed his eyes and nodded calmly. Since that is the case, I shall capture you today and turn you into a corpse puppet to appease my son. The black corpse heavenly demon emperor said lightly, though his voice carried a cruel intent. Mu Chen smiled and replied, I'm afraid it won't go as you wish. Oh, the black corpse heavenly demon emperor sneered coldly, looking down upon the entire dimension. Do you think being the ruler of this lower dimension can allow you to resist me? Well, I'm not that arrogant, Mu Chen chuckled. No matter how confident he was, he wouldn't consider himself capable of fighting against a heavenly demon emperor, even though this one was just a projection created from a single palm. What kind of trick are you trying to pull? The blood demon emperor sneered, confused by Mu Chen's behavior. However, the black corpse heavenly demon emperor suddenly furrowed his brows. The strange actions of Mu Chen intrigued him slightly. No matter what, capture this child first, the black corpse heavenly demon emperor ordered. His eyes flashed with dark light as his palm extended, and endless corpse chi surged forward, violently crashing into the dimensional barrier. The terrifying force made the entire dimension tremble, the sky cracking and the ground collapsing. In the face of the black corpse heavenly demon emperor's world-shattering power, Mu Chen remained completely unfazed. As the moments passed, he even slightly closed his eyes, allowing the heavenly demon emperor's force to shake the world around him. Are you closing your eyes waiting for death? The blood demon emperor mocked, attempting to provoke Mu Chen, for his calmness made the blood demon emperor feel uneasy. Yet Mu Chen still ignored him. Boom, boom. The world shook violently. Bai Susu and the White Dragon Supreme stared in shock at the distant void, where a terrifying corpse chi seemed to be seeping through the dimensional barrier, flooding into this world. Under the attack of the black corpse heavenly demon emperor, the entire dimension was on the verge of collapse. At that moment, Mu Chen finally opened his eyes. He looked at the space beyond the dimension, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. Outside the dimension, the black corpse heavenly demon emperor furrowed his brows upon seeing Mu Chen's smile. He immediately pointed upwards, and endless corpse chi gathered to form a massive skull tens of thousands of feet tall. The skull let out a shrill scream as it charged forward, aiming to bite into the entire dimension. Judging by the size, a single bite could tear the dimension open. However, just as the skull was about to collide with the dimensional barrier, a violent and thunderous roar resounded from beyond the dimension. Immediately afterward, an overwhelming surge of lightning shattered the void, sweeping toward the giant corpse skull and reducing it to nothingness. Who dares to interfere with my affairs? The black corpse heavenly demon emperor's pupil shrank, and he bellowed angrily. Mu Chen let out a soft breath, a smile playing on his lips as he muttered to himself. Finally, you've arrived. At this moment, his tightly clenched palms slowly opened, revealing a handful of stone dust that drifted away, gently scattering through his fingers. At the same time, the space beyond the void tore open, as if a sea of thunder roared out from within. Above this thunderous sea stood a towering figure holding a thunder scepter. He stepped out of the void, appearing beyond the dimensions. Meanwhile, a vast thunderous sound resonated through the entire cosmic world, and a grand voice descended from the heavens. The mighty heavenly demon emperor, if you seek a worthy opponent, come to my martial realm. Why show your power in such a humble lower dimension? Do you really think there is no one worthy in my great thousand worlds? The grand voice echoed throughout the cosmos, reverberating without end. Beneath the lingering sound, the vast sea of thunder burst through the void, and above it, that towering figure appeared beyond the lower dimension. The figure stood tall, holding the Thunder Emperor's scepter, which flickered with thunderous light. Each flicker of lightning sent shockwaves through the heavens and the earth. He wore a purple-black robe, standing with his hands clasped behind his back, atop the thunder sea. His face was resolute and steady, like a towering mountain, exuding an aura of boundless power. When this figure appeared, the black corpse heavenly demon emperor, standing beyond the dimension, also slightly changed his expression. His eyes darkened, and he coldly said, "I didn't expect to encounter the martial ancestor here." The martial realm guarded the borders of the Great Thousand World and had deep connections with the extraterritorial evil clans. Naturally, the martial ancestor had fought many of their peak experts. Therefore, his name was renowned even among these evil clans. It's actually the martial ancestor. In the lower dimension, the White Dragon Supreme gazed in shock at the figure beyond the world. For those of them from lower dimensions, the martial ancestor was almost a legendary figure. He never imagined he would one day witness him in person. The White Dragon Supreme sighed, and then looked at Mu Chen beside him, deeply impressed. I didn't realize Brother Mu's connections were this strong, even able to invite someone like the martial ancestor. No wonder, even when a heavenly demon emperor descended earlier, Mu Chen didn't seem too panicked. It turns out he still had such a powerful hand left. The White Dragon Supreme couldn't help but marvel. That young man from back then seemed to have truly risen to prominence in the Great Thousand World. Mu Chen only smiled at the White Dragon Supreme's words, then looked up towards the sky. The heavenly demon emperor, a saint-grade heavenly supreme, was here today. It seemed that a magnificent showdown was about to unfold. Beyond the world, the martial ancestor's profound and inscrutable gaze first turned towards the lower dimension. With his abilities, a simple scan was enough for him to understand what had occurred in this dimension. A faint cold light flickered in his eyes. The martial ancestor, also from a lower dimension, knew all too well the terrifying nightmare these extraterritorial evil clans represented for the creatures of lower dimensions. In his own lower dimension, he had even sacrificed his wife in the battle to eliminate demons. Only through such sacrifice did he finally rid the world of these evil forces. For all these reasons, the martial ancestor despised the extraterritorial evil clans more than anything. Now, seeing what seemed like a repeat of history, a storm of emotions surged in his gaze as it turned towards the black corpse heavenly demon emperor. You, corpse demon, not content with hiding in your extraterritorial evil clan, dare to run wild in my great thousand worlds lower dimension. The martial ancestor's icy voice echoed, and for a moment, billions of thunderbolts roared, shaking the heavens and the earth. Though the black corpse heavenly demon emperor feared the martial ancestor, he was, after all, the leader of his clan. Hearing the martial ancestor's words, he couldn't help but laugh in rage. Although he was merely a projection of his true self, the martial ancestor appeared to be just an avatar, so the black corpse heavenly demon emperor didn't feel intimidated. Despite the martial ancestor's renowned reputation, he wasn't necessarily a pushover. Martial ancestor, this one killed my son and nearly wiped out the Blood Fiend clan. If you hand him over, I will leave, the black corpse heavenly demon emperor said coldly, pointing towards Mu Chen in the lower dimension. Hearing this, the martial ancestor looked in Mu Chen's direction, and with a faint smile, said, "If that's the case, then you've done well." The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's face twitched slightly at these words. He growled coldly. It seems the martial ancestor truly doesn't intend to let this end peacefully. The martial ancestor laughed casually and replied, "Who wants peace with you? Today, I shall capture your avatar." I don't believe it. With just your spiritual energy avatar, what can you possibly do to me?" The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor sneered, knowing that negotiations had failed. Without hesitation, he waved his sleeve, and in an instant, a dense wave of corpse energy blanketed the sky, blocking out the sun. Roar! Suddenly, from within the dark cloud of corpse energy, a roar echoed, and hundreds of skeletal corpse beasts shot out, each exuding a formidable energy. These skeletal corpse beasts were clearly the product of the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's meticulous refining, their bodies incredibly powerful. Especially the lead few. Even a spirit-grade Heavenly Supreme would be helpless against them. The martial ancestor stood on the Thunder Sea, his expression unchanged as he calmly observed the oncoming horde of corpse beasts. With a light stomp of his thunder staff, the staff shot into the sky, releasing a vast torrent of lightning that raged across the heavens. Amidst the roaring thunder, the Thunder Emperor's scepter transformed into a massive thunder dragon. The dragon coiled through the void, its body endless, as lightning of every color radiated from it, each bolt imbued with destructive power. Mu Chen gazed at the thunder dragon, his eyes narrowing in contemplation. From his perception, this thunder dragon was far from ordinary. It didn't seem like a mere construct. It had a soul, a true spirit, much like a real thunder dragon. The power of this thunder dragon was so overwhelming that Mu Chen knew even he would struggle to gain the upper hand in a confrontation. Roar! Just as Mu Chen was astonished, the thunder dragon roared, its maw opening wide like a black hole. Millions of bolts of lightning erupted, forming chains that pierced the void, wrapping around the corpse beasts and trapping them. With a crash, the lightning chains recoiled, pulling the beasts toward the dragon's massive mouth. One by one, the beasts were consumed. After devouring them, the thunder dragon seemed to burp contentedly and patted its belly, before transforming back into a bolt of lightning and returning to the martial ancestor's hand, becoming the Thunder Emperor's scepter once more. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's expression darkened at the sight. His corpse beasts contained a powerful corpse demon poison, a toxic force so overwhelming that even a Heavenly Supreme or other demon emperors would be transformed into corpses if infected. Yet, when the Thunder Dragon devoured them, he could feel an extremely intense and violent power cleansing the poison entirely. Clearly, his tactic had been effortlessly neutralized by the martial ancestor. "Since you've made your move, then allow me to try one as well. If you can withstand it, I'll let you go today," the martial ancestor said to the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor, his voice calm. Arrogant. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor laughed in fury. As a demon emperor, he had been repeatedly scorned by the martial ancestor. How could this not ignite his rage? "Today, I'll see what qualifications you, martial ancestor, have to speak to me like this." Despite the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's angry laughter, the martial ancestor paid it no heed. His mind moved, and a halo slowly appeared behind him. The halo was circular, with 8 distinct colors swirling and rotating. Whoosh! The 8-colored halo shot forward, expanding with the wind, quickly growing to a massive size, encompassing the heavens and earth, with the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor at its center. Humph! The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor snorted coldly. His body shimmered with dense corpse energy, and suddenly, black corpse water began to drip from his body. This black corpse water, known as extreme evil corpse water, was thick and foul-smelling, exuding an indescribable aura of death and annihilation. Even a single drop, if it fell into a lower dimension, could turn all the beings there into corpses. Go! He flicked his finger, and the drops of black corpse water shot out, forming a small stream. The stream seemed unassuming, but wherever it passed, even the void itself emitted a deathly silence. The corpse water polluted the world, eventually colliding with the 8-colored halo. Extreme evil corpse water had the power to corrupt. Any spiritual energy that came into contact with it would be tainted by death, and the very body of the user would be stripped of life, turning into a corpse. No matter how strong one's vitality was, under such water, survival was impossible. As the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor saw the corpse water hit the 8-colored halo, a cold, sinister smile appeared on his face. The martial ancestor might be powerful, but his arrogance would be his downfall today. The corpse water came into contact with the 8-colored halo, immediately starting to infiltrate and attempt to unleash its terrifying, corrupting, and contaminating power. Boom. However, just at that moment, the 8-colored halo, which had remained quiet until now, suddenly erupted in a dazzling brilliance. 8 different spiritual lights appeared on it: thunder, darkness, ice. Each of the 8 spiritual lights represented a different attribute of spiritual energy. They were incredibly powerful, yet they did not resist one another, instead merging together. In the end, a brilliant flame soared above the 8-colored halo. The flame was extremely mysterious. It appeared to be fire, but it also had the presence of ice and the flicker of thunder. Mu Chen, witnessing this scene, couldn't help but exclaim. It was said that the person with the most spiritual attributes in the Great Thousand Worlds was the martial ancestor. Now, it seemed that this claim was indeed true. As the mysterious flame inhaled and exhaled, it completely consumed the extremely evil corpse water. The flames burned, and the corpse water was reduced to faint smoke, vanishing away. Below, the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's expression suddenly changed drastically, feeling something was wrong. The power of this fire seemed to have the ability to exterminate demons. However, before he could think further, the 8-colored flame ring rapidly contracted. Just a moment ago, it had been massive, but the next moment, it shrank and surrounded the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's body, tightening swiftly to bind him. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's eyes contracted. His body suddenly expanded, intending to shatter the ring. Sizzle! But at that moment, the 8-colored flame ring settled on his body. In an instant, his body stiffened, and the 8-colored flame infiltrated him. In the blink of an eye, he was transformed into a flaming human, burning fiercely. The fire was clearly terrifying. Even the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor couldn't resist it. A chilling scream echoed as his body melted away in mere moments, eventually turning into a black, dried-up hand. Bang! The 8-colored flame ring trembled, and the hand turned into powder, scattering in the void. In the dark and deathly quiet world, atop the bone throne, a massive black figure, like a demon god, suddenly trembled. His tightly shut eyes snapped open, revealing anger in his gray pupils. Damn martial ancestor! He growled, and boundless death energy surged out, nearly engulfing the entire world, causing countless creatures within to tremble in fear under his overwhelming pressure. The rage lasted for a while, and only then did the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor begin to suppress his emotions. He darkly stared at his left hand, which was now empty. Death energy swirled around the severed hand, and a gray hand slowly grew back. Yet, the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's face remained grim. His physical body had been refined over countless years, so even though the hand had regrown, it was no longer as powerful as before. This undoubtedly created a new weakness for him. In future battles, this left hand would become a vulnerability. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor clenched his dried-up hand, coldly staring at the void, as though trying to pierce through the spatial shackles to locate the martial ancestor. After a long pause, he finally withdrew his gaze. This martial ancestor, truly formidable. Now calm, a deep sense of wariness flickered in the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's eyes. Although their encounter had been brief, he had sensed a tremendous danger from the martial ancestor. This martial ancestor guards the border between the Great Thousand Worlds and our extraterritorial evil clan. Over the years, many heavenly demon emperors have suffered at his hands. I once doubted this, but after facing him today, I now understand how powerful he truly is. With his abilities, he is undoubtedly one of the few in the Great Thousand Worlds. However, there are rumors that the Flame Emperor of the Boundless Fire Domain is equally strong. According to intelligence reports, Both of them may even have the potential to rival the immortal emperor of the ancient Great Thousand Worlds. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor narrowed his eyes, deep in thought. If that's the case, these two could indeed become great enemies for the Extraterritorial Evil Clan. Once war breaks out, they will be the two massive obstacles in their way. But fortunately, our Extraterritorial Evil Clan is overall stronger than the Great Thousand Worlds, and, at this point, a cold gleam appeared in the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor's eyes, and a strange smile crept up on his lips. Our Extraterritorial Evil Clan has been scheming for tens of thousands of years. Once our plan is successful, even if these two are as powerful as the Immortal Emperor, they still won't be able to stop our march. Humph, let them have their moment of pride. Once our Extraterritorial Evil Clan's great plan is complete, I will make sure to avenge the loss of my hand today. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor sneered coldly, waving his hand. An endless wave of deathly energy swept over him, gradually enveloping his enormous body until it dissipated into the void. In the lower dimension, Chen watched the battle unfold rapidly beyond the world, and couldn't help but sigh, a trace of admiration in his eyes. Though both sides seemed to be on equal footing, the clash revealed the difference in strength. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor, while comparable to a Saint-grade Heavenly Supreme, was clearly inferior when compared to the martial Ancestor. Although he had finally reached the coveted Heavenly Supreme realm, Chen knew that his journey was far from over. Truly deserving of the legendary martial Ancestor, he muttered. At that moment, the White Dragon Supreme also snapped back to reality, his body trembling with excitement. Chen smiled lightly, but his gaze grew cold as he looked toward the stunned Blood Demon Emperor in the distance. Do you still have any trump cards left? The Blood Demon Emperor jolted, and immediately retreated, transforming into a streak of bloodlight as he fled toward the horizon. The situation had already shattered his will to fight. At this point, he no longer cared about preserving his clan. He only sought to escape with his life. Need any help? A calm voice rang out from beyond the heavens. A beam of spiritual light descended, landing beside Chen. It was the martial Ancestor. No need to trouble martial Ancestor. I can handle this myself, Chen replied with a smile. His thoughts stirred, and the black and white Chen shot into the sky, chasing after the Blood Demon Emperor, who was desperately trying to escape. One Chi transforms 3 purities, truly one of the 36 supreme divine abilities. It seems you've actually mastered it, the martial Ancestor observed, nodding in approval as he watched Chen's 2 avatars disappear into the distance. It was just relying on the residual legacy of my predecessors, merely a stroke of luck, Chen replied, not feeling overly proud. There's no need to be so modest. A Heavenly Supreme at your age, even across the entire Great Thousand Worlds, would be enough to leave people in awe, the martial Ancestor said with a smile. He looked Chen up and down with admiration. The last time he saw Chen, he hadn't even reached the Earth Supreme stage. Yet, in less than 10 years, Chen had ascended to the Heavenly Supreme realm. Such speed in cultivation and talent were indeed remarkable. Chen scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. After all, some of his cultivation time had been spent in peculiar spaces with slow time flow. For instance, his breakthrough to the Heavenly Supreme realm, though only taking half a day in the real world, felt like he had spent a century in that chaotic place. If only Lin Jing had half your tenacity in cultivation, I would be satisfied. The martial Ancestor sighed when thinking of his lively daughter, who was always restless. Even the legendary martial Ancestor found himself at a loss with her. Chen chuckled at the thought of Lin Jing's frequent runaway antics. He didn't say much, though. After all, if Lin Jing found out he had complained about her in front of the martial Ancestor, she probably wouldn't let him off easily. Fortunately, the martial Ancestor didn't dwell on this, and instead looked toward the lower dimension with a smile. I didn't expect this lower dimension to have a dimension spirit. It seems you truly have excellent fortune. He could easily tell that Chen had become the master of this lower dimension. His breakthrough to the Heavenly Supreme realm was likely aided by the power of this dimension spirit. Dimensions with a dimension spirit were rare throughout the Great Thousand Worlds. Even ancient clans would be tempted by such places, as the power of the dimension spirit could potentially create a heavenly supreme. Martial Ancestor, you too are a Dimension Lord, right? What benefits does this bring, and what exactly should I do? Mu Chen hesitated for a moment before asking. Though he had become the Lord of the Dimension, he had no idea what to do with it. Luckily, the Martial Ancestor, another Dimension Lord, was right here. The Martial Ancestor smiled. Being a Dimension Lord has its advantages. In the future, when you fight, you can easily communicate with the Dimension by simply focusing your mind, drawing endless spiritual energy from it. This will give you an advantage in battles. Mu Chen's heart stirred. If that were the case, he could draw the spiritual energy needed to summon the Eightfold Pagoda and Mystic Dragon Army from this lower dimension, which would save him quite a bit of trouble. However, you must also understand that excessive demands can be just as detrimental as insufficient ones, the Martial Ancestor reminded. After all, this is just a lower dimension. If you ask for too much, it could lead to the collapse of the dimension, and countless lives would be destroyed along with it. Mu Chen's expression grew serious as he nodded with determination. Now, he was the ruler of this lower dimension, capable of controlling the life and death of billions of beings within it. If he was not careful, his actions might bring about its destruction. I promised the Dimension Spirit to protect this world and prevent the Extraterritorial evil clan from invading again. However, the fact that the Blood Fiend clan was able to enter means there must be another spatial node within the evil clan's domain. If this issue isn't resolved, more such invaders might come in the future, Mu Chen pondered. Upon hearing this, the Martial Ancestor said, "That's simple. You are now the ruler of this dimension, and you have the power to shift it. If you move the dimension to a safer area, the spatial nodes will naturally change." Mu Chen's eyes brightened. If that were the case, he could shift this dimension to Tianluo continent and find a way to connect it to the Great Thousand Worlds. From then on, if anyone in this dimension were capable of breaking the dimensional shackles, they could be directly guided to Mu Manor. Such a person would undoubtedly be a rare talent with extraordinary potential, perhaps even one who could reach the heavenly supreme realm. Such individuals were highly sought after by all the major powers in the Great Thousand Worlds, and Mu Manor would certainly not let them slip away. Thinking of this, Mu Chen turned to Bai Susu and the others, smiling. In that case, I will connect this dimension to the Great Thousand Worlds in the future. This should enhance the strength of our world. When you are able to break the dimensional shackles, Mu Manor will always welcome your arrival. Bai Susu and the other powerful beings from the lower dimension were overjoyed and immediately bowed respectfully. They understood that this was their world's opportunity. With a powerhouse like Mu Chen's protection, they would no longer suffer from the ruthless slaughter of the Extraterritorial evil clan and could pursue higher realms. Mu Chen smiled, and then, with a thought, two streaks of light swept across the sky and landed before him. It was his two avatars. Suspended before them was a blood-red orb, within which a vicious, malevolent face could be seen. It was the Blood Demon Emperor. Clearly, despite the obstruction from the two avatars, the Blood Demon Emperor had failed to escape and was finally sealed. Mu Chen waved his sleeve, collecting the blood-red orb into the pagoda for containment, then respectfully clasped his hands towards the Martial Ancestor. "Thank you for your assistance today, Senior Martial Ancestor." The Martial Ancestor waved his hand dismissively, unconcerned. "Eradicating evil is our duty as the people of the Great Thousand Worlds. It's just a shame that we couldn't slay the Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor here." Mu Chen broke into a cold sweat. The Martial Ancestor was truly fierce. The Black Corpse Heavenly Demon Emperor was a Heavenly Demon Emperor, and if slain here, it would certainly be a great blow to the Extraterritorial evil clan. However, he also understood that with the Martial Ancestor's strength, it might indeed have been within his capabilities. "Senior Martial Ancestor, if you ever need anything in the future, please feel free to command me," Mu Chen said sincerely. Both the Martial Ancestor and the Flame Emperor had given him a protective talisman, which had served as a great aid on his cultivation path. Without their help, he would have had to face many dangers with much less confidence. Thus, these two had provided him with immense support. The Martial Ancestor laughed heartily, his large sleeves fluttering. His resolute face had a certain steady charm. "The Flame Emperor and I are helping you because we see your potential. We also hope that, When the extraterritorial evil clan invades the Great Thousand Worlds again, we will have someone like you by our side." As his voice faded, the martial ancestor said no more and waved his hand to Mu Chen, his form gradually vanishing. "Mu Chen, although you've reached the heavenly supreme realm, you have not yet reached its peak. You must not be complacent. Otherwise, when the great tribulation comes, you might not be able to survive it." The martial ancestor's figure dissipated, but his stern voice echoed in Mu Chen's ears. Mu Chen's face became solemn. He could tell from the martial ancestor's tone that even such a powerful figure as him felt a sense of danger when facing the extraterritorial evil clan. This showed just how much of a threat the evil clan posed to the Great Thousand Worlds. "I will keep this in mind, Senior." Mu Chen spoke softly, then he also lifted his head. The extraterritorial evil clan, a future threat, yet now, he felt it was time to finally confront the matters that had weighed on his heart for these many years. He took a deep breath, his gaze growing increasingly sharp, and his voice slowly echoed. "The Futu ancient clan, after all these years. I've finally waited for this day. Tianluo continent. Northern domain. Since Mu Chen decisively defeated the three major hegemonic powers of the northern domain a year ago, Mu Manor had swiftly risen to take their place, becoming the strongest force in the region. Taking advantage of this, Mu Manor flourished over the past year, occupying half of the northern domain's vast resources. Its overall strength grew steadily, and its fame not only soared in the northern domain, but also spread throughout Tianluo continent. Meanwhile, the once dominant three hegemonic forces started to wane, leading to an increasing number of powerful figures aligning themselves with Mu Manor, making its influence even more formidable. However, despite Mu Manor's strength, the three hegemonic powers maintained a quiet silence. But everyone knew this silence wouldn't last long. Behind those three powers stood super forces that wouldn't idly watch as a rival power took over the northern domain. This silence, in reality, was merely the calm before a much stronger storm. Naturally, Mandala, as the chief of Mu Manor, was fully aware of this. She had never let her guard down, always keeping an eye on the three major powers. She knew their counterattack was inevitable, and she was right. About half a year after Mu Chen's departure, one day, a palace slowly descended from the sky, hovering above Mu Manor. The arrival of the palace immediately sent Mu Manor into panic. Within the palace, an immense, boundless pressure radiated outward, covering an area of millions of miles. Countless strong individuals trembled under the weight of this pressure. Such overwhelming force could only come from a true heavenly supreme. The palace hovered above Mu Manor, yet it did not make any further move. Instead, a jade tablet descended from the palace toward Mu Manor. As the jade tablet landed, it emitted a booming sound that reverberated throughout the northern domain. "I am profound Heaven Elder, and I have been entrusted by others. Where is the master of Mu Manor? Step forward and pay your respects." The grand voice was casual, condescending, and clearly did not regard Mu Chen in any respect. Its tone was as if commanding a junior. The visitor's tone undoubtedly angered the high-ranking members of Mu Manor, but they were helpless. Even though Mu Manor had grown powerful, in the eyes of a heavenly supreme, it was still nothing more than a small force. If the heavenly supreme chose to act, Mu Manor would be powerless to stop it. Facing the brazen pressure of a heavenly supreme hovering above Mu Manor, Mandala was extremely enraged. At first, she took the jade tablet and attempted to ascend the palace to negotiate, but when she arrived at the palace, she found she couldn't take a single step closer. "Tell your Manor's master to come, for you are not yet worthy to meet the elder." When Mandala was blocked, that casual voice echoed once more, shaking the heavens. Faced with such humiliation, Mandala's small face turned pale with anger, but she took a deep breath, suppressing the fire in her heart. She took out the Demon Slayer King token left by Mu Chen, flicked it with her fingers, and shot it into the palace. The Demon Slayer King token, an item from the Palace of the Great Thousand, symbolized the identity of the Demon Slayer King. With the power of the Great Thousand Palace, even an ordinary heavenly supreme would not dare to provoke it. However, when the Demon Slayer King token entered the palace, a cold laugh echoed. The token was soon thrown back out. a mere demon slayer king with no power or authority, daring to flaunt the authority of the great Thousand Palace? Scram, tell your Manor's master to come, or else the elder will remain here for years, watching you lose all face as you try to establish your manor. Mandala caught the demon slayer king token. Her delicate face darkened, but her heart sank. Judging by the Heavenly Supreme's words, they seemed to know Mu Chun very well. Clearly, they were fully prepared and not afraid of the great Thousand Palace. In the face of this situation, Mandala could do nothing. She could only coldly glance at the palace before turning to leave. For the next 6 months, as the palace hovered above Mu Manor without a care, as it had claimed it would, the Heavenly Supreme unleashed his oppressive aura, making life unbearable for the countless experts within Mu Manor. This behavior undoubtedly humiliated Mu Manor, for being trapped at their doorstep and subjected to such open bullying was a blow to their reputation, one that could potentially devastate it. While Mu Manor was caught in turmoil, the 3 old and powerful forces, Xun'er Sect, Thunder Sound Mountain, and Golden Rock Mansion, arrived from afar, entered the palace, and successfully paid a visit to the profound Heaven Elder. This scene was clearly witnessed by everyone in Mu Manor, and it sent a wave of unease through their hearts. Shortly after, the 3 forces began to counterattack in unison, gradually eating into the territories that had previously been occupied by Mu Manor. In an instant, Mu Manor found itself in an unprecedented crisis. The feeling of uncertainty loomed large, as it seemed on the verge of collapse. As time passed, news of the Heavenly Supreme's aura above Mu Manor spread beyond the northern domain and across the entire Tianluo continent. All the various forces heard of it, and countless gazes were drawn toward the northern domain. After all, wherever the Heavenly Supreme appeared, it became the center of attention. Although there was an unwritten rule on the Tianluo continent that forces could not easily intervene in each other's battles, the profound Heaven Elder had not directly clashed with Mu Manor. Instead, he was targeting Mu Chun personally under the pretext of a private feud, which provided a somewhat justifiable reason for his actions. After all, the superpowers behind the forces on the Tianluo continent would not risk offending a Heavenly Supreme for a manor that lacked even a single Heavenly Supreme of its own. Thus, in the face of Mu Manor's setbacks, nearly all the forces watched from the sidelines, some even hoping to see Mu Manor crumble, especially after witnessing Mu Chen's formidable combat abilities, which had already instilled fear in them. Fortunately for them, Mu Manor was currently without a Heavenly Supreme, and if they later found such a supporter, it would be nearly unstoppable. In the blink of an eye, Mu Manor had become the focal point of attention across the entire Tianluo continent. 6 months passed in a flash. For Mu Manor, these 6 months had been a torment. The once prosperous estate had been turned upside down by the appearance of the profound Heaven Elder. Though the Elder did not launch a direct attack, his slow and insidious tactics slowly eroded the morale of everyone in Mu Manor from the ground up. Every day, he would send a jade decree, forcing Mu Chun to appear, but by this time, Mu Chun had already left the northern domain and could not show himself. Over time, rumors began to spread, claiming that the Lord of Mu Manor, afraid of the Heavenly Supreme's power, had secretly abandoned the manor and fled in disgrace. These rumors clearly originated from the 3 forces of Xun'er Sect, and their effect was profound. Many of the forces that had previously allied with Mu Manor began to stir, showing signs of wanting to break away. After all, given the current situation, it seemed that Mu Manor's great ship was on the verge of capsizing, and in the face of impending disaster, everyone would naturally consider their own survival. Within half a year, the once thriving Mu Manor had quickly become shaky, no longer in its former glory, but teetering on the brink of collapse. One day, outside a grand hall in Mu Manor, the high-ranking members of Mu Manor gathered, their atmosphere tense. They looked up at the palace hovering above the 9 heavens, where the ominous aura of the profound Heaven Elder descended like a mountain, pressing down on everyone's shoulders. Mandala, the Iron Mountain Sect, and the Mystic Sound Sect have announced their departure from Mu Manor today. Lu Tiandao sighed deeply and said in a low voice. Before them, Mandala and Ling Shi exchanged a glance, both of their faces grim. The turmoil Mu Manor had faced over the past 6 months had drained them, despite their best efforts to hold everything together. The profound Heaven Elder loomed like a mountain, suffocating all of Mu Manor's experts. Now, the mood was one of fear, and if not for Mu Chen's past brilliance in battle, Mu Manor would have fallen apart long ago. It was only at this moment that they truly understood the importance of a heavenly supreme to a force. Mandala raised her delicate face, gazing at the palace in the sky. Her small hands clenched into fists as she spoke coldly. This profound Heaven Elder is truly ruthless, trying to make Mu Manor devoid of anyone. Lu Tiandao and the others fell silent for a moment, before murmuring, "Is there any news from the Lord of the Manor?" Mandala shook her head, replying, "He is seeking the path of the Heavenly Supreme. We cannot contact him." Lu Tiandao forced a bitter smile. "If that's the case, then we may not be able to hold out much longer." Mandala gritted her teeth and said, "As long as Mu Chen is still here, Mu Manor will not fall. When he reaches the Heavenly Supreme, even if the manor is broken, it will rise again." Lu Tiandao and the others sighed inwardly. Although they said that, how could one easily step into the position of Heavenly Supreme? Even if Mu Chen had an impressive battle record and outstanding talent, without an extraordinary opportunity, how could becoming a Heavenly Supreme be anything but difficult? Moreover, even if Mu Chen truly became a Heavenly Supreme, the current situation might still be difficult to resolve. Although it seemed that only the profound Heaven Elder was present in that palace, they knew that the three major old powers behind the Northern Domain's top forces were secretly manipulating things. And within those three superpowers, there were existences of Heavenly Supremes. The situation before them at Mu Manor truly seemed like a deadlock. Buzz, while they were lamenting, a streak of light suddenly fell from the sky, landing in the palace. The light transformed into a jade plaque, which trembled, and once again, a loud voice echoed across the heavens and earth, resounding throughout the Northern Domain. "Mu Chen, if you don't show yourself now, your Mu Manor might soon be without anyone left." Mandala, hearing that mocking laughter, clenched her small hands so tightly that they creaked. Ling Shi, Long Xiang, and the others also glared with anger. If their power gap hadn't been so immense, they probably would have already acted on their fury. In front of the main hall, many of Mu Manor's experts had darkened expressions. However, just as everyone fell silent, their expressions suddenly changed, and they looked up. From the distant sky, the void suddenly twisted. Spiritual light surged, and a tall figure appeared, stepping through the air. In just a breath, the figure had arrived above Mu Manor. Mandala and the others stared blankly at the figure. After a moment, their eyes widened in disbelief. "Is that? It seems to be the Manor Master?" Lu Tiandao and the others rubbed their eyes, and after a long while, they finally spoke with difficulty. In the sky, the young figure stepped through the air. He extended his hand, and the jade plaque fell into his grasp. Without even looking at it, he crushed it with a casual gesture, causing it to disintegrate into dust. Then, his cold gaze lifted, locking onto the palace. He pointed a finger in the air. Boom. The space surrounding the palace shattered under Mu Chen's single finger. Countless shards of space formed into a large hand, which grabbed and crushed the palace into oblivion. As the palace exploded, his deep voice, infused with a sharp, killing intent, resounded across the entire Northern Domain. "Since you like Mu Manor so much, then from now on, stay here and never leave.